Hi there, and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth today. Today, we're going to be talking about the colour sapphire, and just a reminder that any suggestions for physical healing do not replace professional medical advice or other. And you are invited, of course, to put up your own comments about your own experiences of using the colour sapphire as well. And I say thank you in advance because the more we share information, the more we learn and grow. So, when I talk about the colour sapphire, obviously I'm talking about the name or the colour that is actually from the sapphire crystal. This is where we name it. Okay, so for centuries, sapphires have been the epitome of royalty and romance, although there's not a huge amount of relevance here for this video, but just giving it a bit of background here. They're synonymous, if I can say the word, they're synonymous with many shades of blue. This is the actual sapphire crystal. But for the purposes of this video today, the colour or the shade or the hue, by definition, that I'm looking at is the one that we see on this particular image as being the cornflower blue. It's not what I would call cornflower blue, but from a sapphire naming perspective, it is associated with the cornflower blue. But having said that, look, in fairness, I think it's a real mix of the deep blue, the royal blue, and the cornflower blue here. So in many ways, we're using our imagination when we talk about colours. It's very much about perspective and context, and this is why there's a lot of variation between beliefs as well. So when we look at the sapphire blue, this is one of those occasions when we try to link it through to the chakra body, that we can see that the healing properties of it don't necessarily match the chakra base. And this is because we have mixtures of colours and hues, or mixtures of the primary colours when it comes to making the shades. So, a sapphire blue is not a true blue. It carries certain aspects of red within it that gives it a lot of the depth. So when we talk about the properties of blue with the sapphire, we're talking about basically taking care of the red chakra, which is the base chakra, as you can see down the bottom. And then you can see the lighter blue chakra, which is based on the throat. So it's a combination. It carries properties, the sapphire blue, of being able to work on base survival needs as well as communication needs. But we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail. I'm a bit nasally, sorry about that. This is because in between recording slides, I'm having little sneezing fits. It's been a bit windy and we've got summer here in Australia. So at these times of the year, quite often there can be a lot of pollen. So I've been having a bit of sneezing in between recording. But where I'm going with this is when it comes to, we'll set that aside and I'll crack on. When it comes to the healing properties or attributes of colours, there are a lot of crossover between colours, but there is still specific focus attached to a colour. And by that I mean the colour sapphire blue has transformative qualities to it, and it is a protective type colour. In fact, protection is very much associated with it. But we also see these attributes with the colour white. And I wanted to make the reference here that white is considered to be a very active, busy type of color, and from a healing property, it's very strong, it's very powerful, absolutely, but there is a lot of activity to it. So while the sapphire blue also has aspects of transformation, it doesn't carry the same. It's still powerful. It's hard to actually do justice to some of these things, or these subjects. It's powerful, but in a different way. It's more gentle and it is soothing, but it is still extremely transformational. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how the colour blue works and how you can incorporate it in your life. So, as I said before, it is a colour of transformation, but I neglected to mention, of course, that it is said to be very good with healing the physical body and regenerating positive health and all of this kind of thing. Now, I can honestly say that that has not been my experience of using the sapphire blue from a physical perspective. Okay, so it's not like I have felt the benefits personally of using blue to create healing of health conditions, physical health conditions. But what I can say is that it is also associated with the emotions and feelings. And we can see this here. I've put this image up because it's associated with water. You can see here that we've got sapphire associated with the water because we've got fish swimming around. But the reality is too that water, is a reference to our emotions and the way we feel. So, in my experience of using sapphire, I definitely have found it to be beneficial as far as calming and soothing emotions, especially during highly stressful periods of, say, panic and stress, or feeling emotionally threatened. And this might be because of being emotionally manipulated or whatever. But basically, by drawing upon the peaceful aspects of this sapphire blue and the protection, I'm trying to think actually of a nice way of putting it. There is no nice way of putting it. Okay, at different times in my life, I've been subjected to things like verbal and emotional abuse. And at these times, I've found that the sapphire colour has been extremely beneficial, and it does offer a level of peace and protection towards me. And if you think about this, when we can soothe our mind and calm our emotions, there are links between the physical health and well-being and our state of mind and emotional turbulence or not. So it makes sense to me that yes, it will have an impact on physical health if we can calm our emotions and our thoughts. So, I mean, I'm interested obviously to hear what your personal position is on these colours. So basically, the primary message of sapphire, if a person is either drawn to it or repelled by it, then they're getting a subconscious message. Especially I find that if a person's got a very strong reaction to a colour, that is very significant. So I would be asking somebody who is drawn to or repelled by the blue if they've been dealing with some turbulent emotional stuff, perhaps at home, if they've been feeling unsafe, as a gateway question, because the thing is that sometimes people have been living through turbulence for so long that it has become a normal part of life for them. They get very skilled at managing their external behaviors, if you like, and so it becomes very hidden. So it's not like anybody's going to know by looking at a person that actually there's some issues around personal safety happening for them. But if they are drawn to this sapphire colour, or as I say, repelled by it, it kind of screams volumes to me. I mean, it's not always about what's happening in the present time frame either. It might be that there's been relationship conflicts from the past, where there has been a risk of personal safety, be it physical or emotional, and where there's that tail end processing, and perhaps, if there's been physical violence and the person is now safe, it might be an indicator that they need to unpack what has happened in the past and to be able to process it and put it to bed, so to speak. So, yeah, one of the things that it's kind of saying is take some time to reflect on what has happened and where you're at now, and if there needs to be any further actions taken currently for health and well-being. And this is because as we unpack the stuff, and this could be in a therapeutic setting, or it could be writing a diary and exploring where we're feeling or what we're feeling right now, we're able to release that pain, because pain becomes a blockage, okay? It stops us from moving ahead. And this is because it can cloud our vision. This is part of it. There's a whole heap of things involved with this, that when we are fixated or locked into past pain, it stops us being able to see a clear pathway in front of us. So the process of unpacking is releasing in healthy and safe ways, and going through that process of getting some order. And because once we've got some order there and structure around how we feel, understanding what has happened, why we've got to where we're at, releasing the pain, accepting that it is in the past, or if it's in the present, that there are actions that we can take. We get some order there. There becomes a level of structure. And when we've got that order and structure there, then we can start to see more clearly where we want to go in the future and how we're going to get there. And we can start that whole goal setting. But it starts before we can start making the goal setting and seeing the clear path. We have to have that safe release, and we have to feel safe in our current environment and also internally. So for those people that believe in angels or light beings, the colour sapphire is definitely associated with Archangel Michael, but we could also say within this context that it's associated with Archangel Gabriel as well, because of course he oversees the throat chakra. He's the messenger, the communicator, if you like. And Archangel Michael, of course, is the protector and oversees, I think it's called the ray of will or whatever. But either way, if you're into angels, he is also associated with the red chakra. So one of the best ways I believe that a person can use the colour sapphire blue, and it's something that I've done for years. So while we can talk about physical health and well-being, the reality is the prevention of illness is always better than a cure, so to speak. And what I have always done is what we call the doming and the bubbles. It's something I learned, oh goodness me, probably about 24 years ago, 25 years ago even. What you can do is draw upon the colour sapphire. Once again, I'm a little stuck with images on how to do it, but you put your house into a dome, and this is so that you can feel safe at home. And it acts as a physical protector or protection method, and it also helps to transmute disharmony within the home itself. I could do a very long video on how I've used this and how effective that it's actually been, and how I've had it confirmed to me that it actually works as a strategy, but there just wouldn't be enough time in this. Suffice to say that I'm one of these people that just because I get told something doesn't mean that I believe it. I actually have to try it and practice it. And when I'm trialing it and practicing it, I also ask the universe to give me proof that it's worked. So that's just a little bit of a thought there for you. But what I was told is that you put your house in a dome, much like this. You've got to re-energize it regularly. You would need to allow an out, because otherwise, when I say an out, it's because energy is continually moving. This is my understanding. And that if you don't allow for a release of energy to occur within the environment, of course, it's just going to build up. So obviously, initially, if you've got a household, you've got your children, you've got your husband, you've got lots of, maybe they're teenagers, and there's a lot of arguments and challenges and stress and that kind of stuff. You've got to create the energetic space to let that energy go from the property. So you would do the cleansing activity, if you like, to call it that. You would do it about once a week. Or if there's been a heightened argument, you would actually then do the doming again. And what you do when you do the doming is you just ask, quite simply, you put in an affirmation, to transform energy within the property that is less than light and love into being loving, kind, peaceful communication, that kind of thing. So I'm just giving you a couple of words here to draw upon. I do have up videos on how to make an affirmation. Just remember that when you're doing an affirmation or an invocation, you always end on the positive, and you never include the word want or need, okay, because that conveys a sense of lack, right? And the universe will provide you exactly what you're asking for. So if you're saying I never want, they'll go, well, she wants, right? Or he wants, and they'll give it to you. So you always start with gratitude anyway. So I give thanks, B, for the removal of anything that is less than love, replaced with feelings of love and peace, or emotions of love and peace, something like that. Pop your comments up. We'll have a discussion about it. Might be a dedicated video on its own. In fact, if somebody comments about this, I will address it in the Sunday yarning. So, when we talk about the protective power of blue, we can also do what's called bubbling. I learned about this when I first did my Reiki attunements. My teacher told me, because obviously we used to do a lot of traveling, and what it is, or when you would use it, is perhaps if you're going on a long journey, which was something I used to regularly do, would be to wrap the car. We call it wrapping the car, putting it in a bubble of protection um, for a safe journey. You know, if you're driving 600 k's in a remote area, you don't want anything happening like hitting an animal or that kind of thing. So you can do that. That's a strategy. The other thing you can do is if you've got a fear of flying, you can put a plane in the bubble. And if you've got family members that you're concerned about who might be at physical risk, for example, they might be living in a war zone or going into a violent area, you can wrap them personally in a protective bubble as well. And if you've got friends, well, it could be friends actually as well, but you would do the law of grace thing with that as well, which is, under grace in the divine way for family and friends that might be struggling with issues such as self-harm and mental illness. You could put them into a bubble as well. Actually, before I speak about this slide, I might share a funny story with you about something that happened to me. I think it was probably about 2004. I was driving from the town that I lived in to another town that was the journey should have only taken about 12 hours, but because there'd been rain and roads were closed and that kind of thing, it ended up taking me about 18 because I got diverted. Suffice to say, yes, I did use the doming strategy, the bubbling strategy. I put the car in a bubble of blue. We did get lost in the middle of the night because I've got very poor sense of direction. But we did finally make it and we got there safe, and we were actually in a very good psychological space. I was traveling with 3 children, by the way. And then the next morning, because I'd caught up with my friend down south of the state and we had to go out. So I was a bit sleep deprived. Anyway, long story short, yes, the car was in a bubble of protection. I'd put protection on it again in the morning before I took off behind her. And probably because I was fatigued, I just, I don't know how I did it in hindsight, but I missed the sign that said to reduce speed. And, we've got, as everybody does, the speed zones where it goes from, say, 60 up to 80 and then up to 100 Ks. Now, I was in a 60 K zone, but I knew that I was coming outside of town. It wasn't a town that I was familiar with. And I knew I was on the open stretches where I'm going, so I cranked it because obviously my brain was still on the I'm driving long distances. So I cranked it and I planted my foot on the accelerator and I went from 60 to 100 very quickly. And as I rounded a corner, there was a police car. Obviously, this was back in the day where they point the little radar thing at you and get you. Well, believe you me, I was one very lucky girl because there was the policeman. He'd just dropped his gun down. We call it a gun. I don't know what you guys call it. But anyway, he'd just dropped his gun down because he placed it between his knees. So I was watching him doing it and not computing that I was at risk of getting a ticket. But anyway, he was placing the gun between his knees while he pulled out his cigarettes to light a cigarette. And as I went past, oh my goodness me, this poor policeman, he was hopping mad. He was so angry that he'd missed catching me and he was waving his arms. And when I got to the destination, I told my friend about it. And she said, oh my goodness me. She said, that cop, he gets everybody. She said, anyway, it gave her great humour that I'd managed to get past him and not get a ticket when I was doing 100k in a 60 zone. So there you go. I'm not recommending people do 100k in a 60 zone, by the way. I'm just saying that happened for me. Anyway, so going back to the colour sapphire, what we can do as well is, of course, the sacred breathing exercises, which is breathing the sapphire light through the crown chakra into the fullness of our body, allowing it to circle around the body on the exhale. We then fill our aura. So just to reiterate, because I may have been a bit unclear then, you inhale through the crown, you visualize with each inhale that this sapphire light is coming through your crown into your body, circling your body, and on your exhale, it's going out into your aura and feeling your aura. And you, of course, would make the positive affirmations. So, in regard to healing activities, this particular strategy is one that's recommended for people that are suffering from physical health illnesses. I just want to make the point too that you can develop this activity and use any shade that you want. Because when I first learned about it, I learned to use the colour pink or the colour white on its own, the pure white, and basically to make these energy balls, and then you would put it into your heart chakra area or wherever you felt there was a need. If there's a chakra issue happening, that you would work with the colour and put it into that specific chakra. So because we're in the first stages of doing these videos, I'm just going to refer to the colour Sapphire here, as doing an energy healing ball for physical illness. So what you would do is, or how you would do it is, as with the previous slide where you visualize yourself within the sapphire blue and you're breathing the blue color into your physical body, you would do that process, and then you would, as you feel your body responding to this energetic shift, if you like, you then rub your hands together. Obviously place your hands upright, rub them together, then open them up as in this image here, and then you start visualizing a sphere of this sapphire colored light sitting in each palm, actually. So this is not the best type of image. I would stick to the one ball. This is just my suggestion. One large ball sitting in between both palms. Okay, so then you allow yourself to feel this energy. Now I want to make the point here too that when I was doing my training and first started all of this stuff, you don't necessarily feel to start with. Energy is something, I guess, the more you do it, the more receptive you become, or the more aware that you are of what energy feels like. So I would say to people, look, just do it, because you've got nothing to lose by doing it. If you don't feel anything, that's okay. You've done the activity. But if you keep doing the activity, sooner or later, you're actually going to start to feel the buzz, right? Because there does become a buzz with when we use energy, all right? So anyway, where we're going with this is you build the ball in your hand, you breathe the sapphire blue. Instead of now, once you've filled your aura with this color of sapphire blue, then your exhale becomes on the healing energy ball in your hands. And you imagine and visualize the blue from your breath going into this ball, energizing it as healing. You make an affirmation as you place this ball into the part of your body that needs healing. So if you've got a dodgy knee or whatever, you would put the blue ball onto your knee. If you've got a heart condition, you might do like this image here, where it looks like a gentleman because he's got a beard, is holding his hands against his chest. You visualize yourself pushing that ball into the area or the part of your body that needs healing. And as you do so, you just make an affirmation along the lines of, Divine Creator, I give thanks for the healing, purification and regeneration of my mind, body and soul. Thanks be, and then you will repeat the statement as you feel drawn to, and you will sit with that energy for as long as you feel the need to. You might even go as far as visualizing the sapphire energy sweeping through your body with this ball, this glowing ball, cleansing and repairing and restoring internal function. That's just a thought. So, my friends, that's all I've got to add today in regard to the colour sapphire. If you've got any thoughts, please put them up. If you've got some healing strategies yourself that you know of and you're happy to share, please do make a comment. As I say, the more information, the merrier, the greater the toolbox that we can all draw from. And I know other people appreciate it. I know that I'll appreciate it. But for now, that's me done. I'd like to say thank you for joining me and being part of my journey. Have a wonderful week. I shall catch you on the next video. Take care for now. Bye-bye.